Hey, it's Mazzy, and welcome back to the channel. The roots of rock and roll, so important. I want to talk about a couple of releases, pre-releases that are coming out from Intervention Records. I'll get to those in a minute. But we couldn't talk about rock and roll, the love of rock and roll we have today, without going back to rhythm and blues, without going back to Louis Jordan crossing over from the jazz and boogie woogie, gospel music and rock and roll of Sister Rosetta Tharpe or Fats Domino or Ray Charles. So many that crossed over. But obviously when white artists really kind of did a hybrid of country music and were developing early rock and roll, we have rockabilly. Of course, the most famous was Elvis Presley, the $1 Million Quartet of Sun Records with Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash, and so many others. There's the Burnett brothers as well, and Gene Vincent. That rockabilly stuff really influenced a lot of American rock, but also, as we know, a lot of British rock. So I'm going to share with you today two upcoming classic Rockabilly Sun records that are coming out in December and in February of next year. And I was sent test pressings of these two by Intervention Records. They're down in Gig Harbor, just southwest of Seattle, 45 minutes from me. Beautiful little harbor area that you should check out sometime. There's actually a wonderful hi-fi store, wine shop there as well, Gig Harbor Audio. But I want to thank Shane Butner, the owner, the curator, the producer here, A&R, if you will, of Intervention Records. And at the end of this video, I'm going to just share some of the other titles I've been buying over the last several years. They do very limited editions. And as we know, third-party audiophile records are... It's been hard lately because a lot of these labels, major labels, are diving into the audiophile world, keeping things for themselves. But these are two incredible titles. Now, I know the music well on both these records. I have different versions of this in the 70s. A lot of the Brit companies like Charlie Records in the 70s would put these out. And I don't have the complete versions of these from Charlie or other labels. And I did spot listen to some other versions, including compact disc versions, and compare it, but nothing comes even close to these two records. The first one here is Carl Perkins. This is his 1957 album. This is essentially a comp of singles from Sun Sessions that Sam Phillips produced. This is the test pressing, and I tell you, I listened to this, and this is one dynamic, amazing sounding record. The great thing about these records, these Sun records, is Sam Phillips's amazing, just natural recording. He recorded these artists live in the studio, very simple mic settings. He used a slapback recording treatment that fed the output of the recording back into the input. So you got an extra depth, almost like another set of musicians, but you don't feel like it's an overdub thing. It's natural as hell, it's loose as hell, and it's organic as hell. And I tell you, when I put this on right at the get-go, there's a dynamic that I've never heard before in this record. Now, interesting thing about these are cut at 45 RPM. Now, before you start yelling at your camera about Mazzy's promoting 45 records, these are short records. So the 45 records basically emulate the artist intent or the label's intent, Sam Phillips' intent of the time to keep the records as one single LP. So even cut at 45, you have side 1 and side 2 exactly in the order intended as originally released back in 1957. But there's a depth to this record. These are mono recordings, obviously, but you have this spacious sound. You know, the cliche of you're in the room is totally perfect for this release. It's dynamic. It's just, you know, the rockabilly instrumentals are amazing. Now, I got into Carl Perkins, obviously, because of the Beatles. The Beatles recorded probably almost half the songs in one form or another on their records. We open up with Blue Suede Shoes. Of course, we'd hear John Lennon do that on Live Peace in Toronto in 1969 with Eric Clapton and Klaus Vormann and Alan White. But on some of the other jams and Get Back, you'd hear the Beatles cover that. You'd have Sure to Fall, another great country song that crosses over. Remember, rockabilly is this rhythm and blues sort of hybrid of gospel and country music. And obviously, the father of rockabilly is Carl Perkins here. Sure to Fall was covered by the Beatles on the Decca edition. It's on some of the BBC recordings. You have that great harmony that emulates what Carl Perkins was doing. This particular album is a heavy influence on John Lennon and George Harrison and Paul McCartney of the Beatles. I mean, it's amazing the covers they did and turned me on to Carl Perkins back in 1964 and 1965. Honey Don't, Ringo covered that. I was a big fan of that song. Of course, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, George Harrison's vocal. But this is the real deal. This is the original, except no substitute. Maybe except when you get to your Beatles record. So even at 45, the record is exactly what it was back then. But through my CD collection, through my LPs I have, especially those British editions, which were probably obviously not from original tapes, these were cut by original tapes from the Sun Records vault. This is the test pressing. Again, this one is coming out in December. You can pre-order it now. I am putting links below because whenever I promote and feature an independent artist or an independent label, I just think we owe it to them to kind of have you order direct from them. This rockabilly recording is like the best of the 1950s, like the Van Gelder jazz records of the day. Very simple, very direct, rehearsed, but natural. And I tell you, this is an amazing sounding record. Then there's Johnny Cash and his Hot and Blue guitar, the very first Johnny Cash record. I've been a Johnny Cash fan since the 1960s. I probably got into him maybe because of the Prison albums in the late 1960s. And of course, then I would go back and listen to a lot of his stuff. I was fortunate enough to see him at a Fillmore show. It was one of the few Fillmore shows in San Francisco where everyone sat down, and it was with him and June and his trio there, and they were fantastic. I did see Carl Perkins once back in the 70s at the Circle Star Theater. The essence of rockabilly, these are two major artists that influenced so much rock and roll, country, gospel, just music in general. And this record is, to me, a perfect record as well. The sound of this, now, there's a little bit of a difference because of Johnny's deep vocal. You get this richness and the acoustic guitar sound that he's strumming on here that make for just, again, another perfect performance. So Johnny Cash initially comes to Sun Records as a gospel singer, and Sam Phillips realizes what he can do with this group and puts them together and makes these kind of rockabilly. He amps it up a little bit, but again, there's a natural tone, and that deep Cash voice really comes forward in this recording. I've never heard these recordings sound so dynamic, so direct, so pure as I heard on this this test pressing of this intervention record that's coming out. This one's coming out in February. So going through some of the tracks. The opening track is a song that I know also because of Beatle lore, because of skiffle music. It opens up with the Rock Island Line. And as far as I know, Johnny Cash actually recorded that song first, but it became a massive hit, of course, in Liverpool and all throughout England because of Lonnie Donegan, and really kind of spurred on the skiffle movement. Johnny Cash transcends that song. As much as I like Lonnie Donegan, the deep voice, the directness, the fullness of Johnny Cash's vocal and how he speeds it up and slows it down. It's a great kind of classic song, I believe a train song from the 1920s that Johnny Cash, of course, and the skiffle groups would cover is great. Goes into a lot of crossover from rockabilly to country. I heard that Lonesome Whistle, another country classic. Cry, 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 Remember Me, So Doggone Lonesome. I was there when it happened. After he leaves Sun, he goes to Columbia Records. We know the rest on his last decade with Rick Rubin and those amazing records and that amazing comeback. Something about Johnny Cash is one of those artists that crosses over and transcends all musical tastes and musical styles. An early version here, the first version of I'll Walk the Line, another song that he would do later on Columbia. I mean, that version of Walk the Line is the definitive version, beats any later version he did for Columbia. This is the essence. This is the real deal. And I tell you, when I played that, again, those of you who watch me know that I upgraded my speakers recently to Spender D7 S2s. I tell you, the richness, the bass, the mid-range here on a record recorded in 1956, 1957, the natural sound of this record, the purity of this record, and again, I'm going to use organic another time here, is just sublime. I think it's such a beautiful recording. He also does Wreck of the Old 97, of course, and Folsom Prison Blues. So, you know, these recordings that he would do over his entire career that you all know from mostly those Columbia records. If you haven't heard Johnny Cash on Sun Records, this is the definitive Johnny Cash record. This is the birth, but this isn't a birthing like an early Beatles record or something. This is fully realized. I mean, obviously later he'd have more production and different bands, and of course the trio that he would record with for a number of years. But this is the purity of rockabilly, of what we know that turned into rock and roll, and again, artists like the Beatles and so many others. And of course, a lot of this music, and I mentioned Charlie Records, because in the 1970s, I would pick up these Sun Session reissues, a series of volumes from Sun that I got from Charlie Records in the 1970s. And as good as they are, and those are really good, I'm sure those are from copy tapes. I doubt they would have gotten the real tapes from the States, but those are great collections to turn us on to the music. And I remember that there was obviously the rockabilly revival, and the punk movement kind of crossed over into that. America, in the 80s, we also had a revival of the rockabilly revival, and they would wear shirts like this and the tweedy kind of coats as well. I just love this music. This is the true rock and roll. This is the essence of rock and roll for a lot of us young white kids. And it's great that it merged from R&B stuff, crossing over with country stuff, and we have this great American music. So again, I want to thank Shane Intervention for allowing me to preview these two records that are coming out. These test pressings just were stunningly beautiful. The Carl Perkins ships in December. The Johnny Cash ships next February. These both sell for around $40. I believe the Johnny Cash sells for $43. These are going to be included in beautiful single sleeve Stoughton covers. These were cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent, who's done a lot of collaborations with Intervention Records. And these were pressed at Gotta Groove. So great rockabilly music coming out from Intervention Records. Check them out. There's a link below. Stop! Don't turn the channel before you go. I promised you at the top of this video that I was also going to show some of the Intervention releases from my personal collection. Now, I bought these myself with my own allowance over the last few years, and I'm just going to go through them and briefly and give you a sense. Now, some of these may still be available, but some of them are not available, I know, because licenses have expired through Intervention. So just to give you a taste, seek these out, if not from Intervention, from maybe third parties or on the used market. But first, Joan Arbitrating, this great 1976 album produced by Glyn Johns. I showcased this very recently in a couple of videos when I was testing out those Spender speakers. This crushes. I hate to use that term, but it does crush my original A&M record. It's a fuller bodied record, simple as that. I could say all the audiophilia flourishes in words of dynamics and spatial essence, but it's just a great record, and musically it's wonderful. This is an out-of-the-box record for anyone to put out, any reissue label, but all the power to Intervention doing this. This is Nigel Live by Murray Head. I first got into Murray Head in 1970 because of the original brown box Decca Jesus Christ Superstar, where he played Judas. Now, this is a concept album. I'd never heard it until the Intervention release. It's really an esoteric record. It's a really cool record. I believe it's out of print, but you can check their site. It's about a person who moves to London to become a pop star. Sounds like a Ray Davis kind of concept, doesn't it? Like Norman, the Star Maker from the Kinks. Remember that soap opera? But it's a cool record. Those of you who watch me on a regular basis know one of my top 3 favorite bands is the Byrds. And of course, Gene Clark, original member of the Byrds, leaves right as he's writing 8 Miles High, leaves the Byrds. It's really kind of a cross-country folk record, what we now call Americana. This is a killer record. This record bombed. I do have an original A&M copy, but again, this is more open, more organic. I'm going to use that word again in this video. But of course, Gene Clark, what a great thing. And obviously, it seems like Shane has a taste for this music because he also put out The Fantastic Expedition of Dillard and Clark. Now, this was on A&M, I know for sure. You can actually see the logo. I have an original copy of this too. And this is more musically enjoyable than the original. Now, original records, I'm not against original pressings, and I'm not necessarily always in for audiophile pressings of everything. But I love, I mean, the acoustic richness of this on this intervention cut is really stunning. Now, they always say here, or they call it bluegrass classic. I don't think this is your daddy's bluegrass. And I probably like your daddy's bluegrass. I like that, maybe because there's banjo on a little bit, but Doug Dillard and Gene Clark do an amazing collaboration. I have both. I think there are 2 Dillard and Clark records. One of them, not this one, the other one. They do an amazing version on the other one of Don't Let Me Down, the Beatles song. But this is excellent music, again. I don't know if that is in print, but again, great records. And of course, in the country rock vein, you know, after the Byrds, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, and Bradley's Barn by Beau Brummels, these 2 records, the Flying Burrito Brothers, one of this, mini super group, if you will, although not many people really knew who Graham Parsons was. But Graham Parsons and Chris Hillman, Sneaky Pete, Bernie Ledden, who had become an Eagle, and Michael Clark. So you got 2 Byrds in this band. But what great music. This is a pivotal record, important record. Of course, Graham Parsons, really pushed that Louvin Brother country thing with Sweetheart of the Rodeo with the Byrds. And this is a brilliant record. Of course, unfortunately, even though the Burritos continued, that wanker Parsons, after Altamont leaves, gets on a helicopter with the Rolling Stones and ends his tenure with the Flying Burrito Brothers. But 2 fantastic albums. Then there's The Church. This is a 1988, I believe. Yeah, 1988 record. Starfish. This is their biggest record, as I recall. Now, this one is over 2 LPs, and it has about, 6 or 8 extra tracks, and it is really a wonderful album as well. The Church from 1988. And lastly, an artist who's had some health issues recently. I know you can even go to the intervention site and support Matthew Sweet. I believe these may be out of print, but great power pop music from the 1990s. 2 of the records, I have everything on CD, and these were hard to get until Intervention put out. You got Girlfriend, wonderful record with this gorgeous Tuesday Weld on the cover. I just love this one. And 100% Fun. Great records by a great artist. And it's great that Intervention has done these, and they've done a lot of great other things. I only have sort of put my toe in the water on the Intervention catalog, but I've never heard anything that disappointed at all. So thanks for watching. Check out those Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins records, linked below. Thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.